The Steam Deck originally released on February 25th, 2022, and it hit the market at a time where gaming handhelds were just barely starting to pick up more steam, but mostly because of the popularity and the rise of the Nintendo Switch. The Steam Deck really helped solidify and establish a baseline of quality and demand from consumers when it came to PC gaming in a handheld form factor. And a lot of companies started to jump in even more after seeing just how well the Steam Deck was received. Since the launch of the deck, we've gotten the ROG Ally, the MSI Claw, the Lenovo Legion Go, just to name a few, and the market is only getting more and more competitive, which is ideal for consumers in this space because that just means we're getting more compelling products from each company trying to get all of us to open up our wallets. But not only are these handhelds getting better and better with each release, but they're also getting bigger and bigger with every release. Seriously, it feels like every time I see a newer PC handheld get leaked or a new one hits the market, it looks bigger than its predecessor. And I'm not really complaining. I mean, our eyes are only getting older and worse, so the bigger the screen usually means the better the device. That is until I saw the One X Player X1. And this thing is 11 inches. It's just huge for no reason. It's just so big. Now, this video is not me trying to rag on bigger devices. I think that bigger devices are great in this space. And most likely, if you're gonna buy a device, I'd recommend that you buy a larger device just to make sure that you're getting enough performance and a big enough screen to satisfy your needs. I initially fell in love with the size of the Steam Deck OLED whenever I first got it. I thought it was amazing. The ergonomics on this thing are so incredibly comfortable. Everything just kind of worked straight out of the box, and the Steam Deck OLED quickly began to take over the #1 spot of all the purchases I've made in like maybe the last 5 years. It was just that good. And for a while, I didn't see any renditions or other versions of a Steam Deck that would be valuable until I was watching this Taki Udon video of a Switch Lite OLED mod. And then all of a sudden, while watching that video and looking at the Switch Lite, I realized just how amazing something like a Steam Deck Mini would be. The OLED already retails at $550, and you get so much with that purchase. The OLED screen, the fantastic controls, Steam OS is unbelievable, and now I've owned my Steam Deck for a little bit over a year, and out of all the handhelds or gaming devices that I've bought in the past 5 to 10 years, the deck is by far like the best purchase that I've made in the gaming space, at least. I also find it really interesting how versatile the audience of the Steam Deck is. It feels like the use case for the Steam Deck varies so heavily depending on who you ask. I mean, we've seen people literally use the Steam Deck as their main PC that not only plays video games, but also acts as a work machine that they plug into separate monitors to use. I've seen a lot of dads use the Steam Deck as their primary device for gaming, and they don't even own, maybe a gaming PC or a console. It's all done on the Steam Deck. And for me personally, I use the Steam Deck as kind of like a couch machine. I think a lot of people also fall into this category where you have a main gaming PC that can run, beefier games and maybe at a higher or full resolution with better frame rate. And then you use the Steam Deck as kind of like a relaxing on the couch machine just to play indie games or, less demanding titles or potentially stream games to your Steam Deck. That's the category I fall into. I wouldn't say that I'm the heaviest Steam Deck user. I definitely use this thing frequently, but it's not constantly as my main device. So that's the perspective that I'm coming into this video with the Steam Deck Mini. If you've owned smaller portable handhelds, you'll quickly realize that the Steam Deck is a monster, bro. Like, this thing is huge. I don't know how else to explain it. If you've never held a Steam Deck before, I think your first experience with it will probably be a surprising factor at just how big this thing is. And obviously there's a reason for the deck being so big. I think this is like the most comfortable handheld to hold. I think a lot of people and a lot of reviewers mostly look to the Steam Deck when it comes to ergonomics because the handles on the side stick out so wide and you have a really great grip that gives you full controller support, and also you have like trackpads. So the Steam Deck, while it's huge, that comes with a benefit to the ergonomics and the comfort when you're holding it. And at first I really didn't think that you could get any better ergonomics or controls or size. I thought everything with the Steam Deck was pretty flawless until I started using it frequently, and I realized that there's actually a bit of a, I want to say, learning curve of finding a comfortable grip and actual position whenever using this thing for longer than like 30 to 45 minutes. Quickly, I noticed that whenever you're playing this thing, you know, on the couch, you have to just really be careful about the position that you're in or how you're playing the Steam Deck, because your hands are basically going to become numb or start to potentially lose feeling, or you get cramps. There's a lot of issues that can arise with the size of the Steam Deck. And this is a common topic with the Steam Deck, and it's actually so common that there's companies that are literally making pillows for people so that you have a more comfortable gaming experience. So you attach the Steam Deck to the pillow. That's where we're at right now. And the Steam Deck size not only contributes to some issues when holding and playing the device, but also takes a lot away from the portability of this thing. Now, this is extremely subjective, obviously, with the Steam Deck and its size. It's still portable. I've taken this thing on so many different flights. It's insane. What I'm debating right now is just whether or not that portability is actually easy to access for most people in this form factor. Putting this thing in my backpack or playing it when I'm out in public is just something that I think is more of a hassle to have to deal with than I'd like to admit. And if you don't want to draw attention to yourself in public, you probably don't want to pull this thing out and play, because it's just a little bit too big and too bulky. And I've already seen a couple of Reddit posts where they're actually agreeing that playing this thing outside or in public can create a lot of attention on yourself just because the Steam Deck size and the way that it looks. And all of these points have kind of cultivated into one big argument for something like a Steam Deck Mini to be released from Valve. A device like the Mini would shine in so many ways, similar to something like the Switch Lite, but obviously the Steam Deck version of this. And this concept of what I would want to see out of a Steam Deck Mini, it would just be all of the issues from the portability and the size of the original Steam Deck, and hopefully make it a bit slimmer, obviously, and just tone it down to the point where bringing it in public and actually taking this thing out or potentially laying on the couch can seem like a better experience, because you're not carrying and lugging around or holding a monstrosity. Having access to my Steam library and a device that is in a small form factor that uses Steam OS would be, in my opinion, a game changer. Now, I don't think Valve would actually make a Steam Deck Mini in this situation. I can only hope for something like this, because SteamOS is starting to come to a lot of third-party devices, and third-party companies are starting to now use SteamOS, which I think is amazing, and that's probably less of a reason why Valve would step into a smaller form factor. But if they did, I would pick it up in a heartbeat, and that's even with some trade-offs, because if you're gonna make a smaller handheld and a Steam Deck Mini, obviously I don't expect this thing to be the exact same as the original Steam Deck and have the same ergonomics, the same performance. I mean, this thing is a mini PC, and that's kind of part of the reason why it's so big. So if you try and shrink down that form factor, not only do I think it might not even be possible, because the engineering of these things is way more complicated than I could ever imagine, but you're also going to be sacrificing so many other things, potentially the battery life, the performance, the ergonomics. There's a lot of things that I'm aware of that would potentially fall to the wayside if you were to make a Steam Deck Mini. But I still have blind optimism and hope that Valve or potentially a third party could make a version of the Steam Deck that's running SteamOS that's in a smaller form factor. The most important thing a lot of people would probably discuss is losing out on power and performance, because you're getting the smaller device. And for me and my Steam Deck uses, I actually would be willing to take that hit. My Steam Deck is essentially just an emulation machine and also something that plays a ton of indie games. And I think that whenever I mention this, a lot of people would probably just tell me to buy a Switch Lite. And I think that's a great alternative. I'm not here to say that, you know, the Switch Lite doesn't necessarily fulfill a lot of these needs, but I just can't help but feel like a Steam Deck Mini or something that's especially running Steam OS with solid ergonomics that don't necessarily match the Steam Deck OLED because it'd be in a smaller form factor, but something that at least gives it a good attempt and tries to have better ergonomics than something like the Switch Lite. We've seen a ton of Android handhelds that have been called the Steam Deck Mini, or potentially some Windows handhelds, like Neo has dropped some things that some people have claimed and hailed as the Steam Deck Mini. And I'm totally aware that there are ways to make these devices work even without SteamOS. You know, if you have a Windows handheld or a smaller device that's running even Android, you can do things like game streaming, or just install Steam and use like Steam Big Picture mode on these, you know, PC Windows handhelds that come in a smaller form factor. There's absolutely ways to go about creating this version and this device for yourself. I just really would like to see a company, or Valve in particular, make something that's in this smaller form factor, especially with all of the devices that we're getting that are huge. So it'd be really refreshing to see something take a step back and actually downsize the portability a little bit. There have been a couple of people on Reddit and on some forums that have made some mock-up designs of something like a Steam Deck Mini, and I actually thought these were really cool. I think that the controls are a little bit rough looking on some of these models that I've seen people create, but overall it just makes me want this product even more. I'm curious what controls and what layout would work for a Steam Deck Mini, because I think if you take out the trackpads, then, you know, a lot of people have made the argument that it's not even a Steam Deck anymore at that point. So what is the actual reason for creating something like this and calling it a Steam Deck? But then again, if you have a smaller form factor, maybe you won't be able to fit the trackpads in, and the controls would be super different. So obviously, like I said, I'm not an engineer or a designer here for these products. I just really like to think and chew on the idea of what something like this would look like, especially if it was released from Valve themselves. And I do think that there is a world where you could find a smaller form factor and a device that can fit this category for people like me who might want something that's a little bit more portable, but still runs SteamOS and has the high quality feeling and some of the ergonomics that the Steam Deck originally brings to the market. The one takeaway from all of this that I'm extremely excited for, and that sparked a lot of the motivation to make this video, is just the fact that SteamOS is finally coming to newer devices that are outside of the Steam Deck. The Legion OS is dropping with a version that has SteamOS already installed. So we're finally starting to see some companies release devices with SteamOS, and this opens the door, I'm hoping, for another company to come in and make a smaller form factor that hits all of the targets that I'm looking for. I'm probably gonna get flamed in the comments for wanting something like this because it's going against the grain of the trend of these devices, like I said, getting bigger and bigger. But let me know what you think, if you would actually use this thing, what your thoughts are on the Steam Deck Mini, if you're interested in a device like this. And hopefully in the future I'll be reviewing something like this, because that would make me extremely happy. I would feel complete if this device came to the market and actually showed up on my front door. But that's the end of the video. I felt like yapping about a product that doesn't even exist yet, but here we are. I hope you have a great day. Hit me up on some of the socials in the description if you're interested. But other than that, I'll hopefully see you in the next video. See ya.